Hi Spurs troops, Steve Perryman here. I understand it's been too long since we were last on. I think it was about 10 months ago. In fact, I actually got fed up with listening to my own voice. So, but anyway, we're refreshed, we're renewed. And the fact that we've got no money, we've had no transfers, we've had no loans. So we've still got Howard. Welcome, Howard.
Hi, miss you all.
Yes, we missed each other for sure. And Tom, how are you?
Hello, I'm well. Yeah, glad to be back doing this again.
Good. So as I say, we've had a long rest. I'd like to say back by popular demand, but those 6 people that have been badgering me, I don't think that can be classed as popular demand. But anyway, we're back. And in actual fact, it's a bit worrying because we've got lots of new members since we stopped the podcast. I don't quite work out how that happens. But anyway, it has. So for those new members, I'd like to ask you both, Howard first, of what your connection is to Tottenham Hotspur and therefore this podcast.
Well, I started supporting Spurs when I was 7, which is a 59-60 season. I can't imagine how it got to this point. And of course, following me, we won the double, so I was definitely in. I've had a season ticket since I was 15, and my engagement present to Viv, my wife, was a season ticket to Spurs. I know how to treat a lady.
You're all
1991, at my daughter's bat mitzvah party, we also had the pleasure not only of Steve being with us, but also the actual real FA Cup.
The real one, because there's a lot of snide ones going around. It was actually the real one, wasn't it? Because the security men...
Jerry.
So you mean Mickey Hazard's doorstop isn't the real FA Cup?
No, no, Tom, not at all.
God,
so go on, Tom, on to you, your connection, please.
Yeah, I mean, family from North London, born and bred, and probably similar to Howard, probably about 7 years old when I really started getting into following the club. That was kind of mid to late 80s. Enjoyed a bit of success with the 91 FA Cup final. Since then, not so much. A couple of League Cups, obviously, although there were great moments when they happened. But yeah, been going all my adult life, part of my childhood as well, and still means the world to me. And even though we don't live in London anymore, I still have my season ticket and head in from Hampshire every other week, and suffer or enjoy it.
Did it start with the family association, Tom, or you're the first one in the family to start the Spurs support?
So my dad is he's not massively into it, but he was obviously a big influence. So I probably doubled the love for the club from there. My great grandfather actually played for Barnet Alston, as they were known back then. So
wow.
Yeah, it could have could have gone one of 3 ways, I guess: Barnet, Tottenham, or the other lot. But yeah, luckily we went for the right one.
And does your father still go?
His last game was Man United at Wembley in when David De Gea had that blinding game against us and we lost 1-0. So yeah, he hasn't been for quite a while, but he's still intending to come to the stadium with me soon. They live down in Cornwall now, so.
Are you passing on your allegiances? Have you got I know you've got children, but do they go to games?
Yeah, Neddy, my son, he's 10 now. He's been going since he was 3. Crystal Palace at Wembley was his first one, and then Jessie, who's 7, my daughter, she went to her first game New Year's Eve, just gone, against Bournemouth. Was singing the Richarlison song all the way home, and they're both coming to the Everton game on Saturday as well. So both pretty much good luck charms. Fingers crossed.
Good.
Good. Okay, so my link, of course, is having played for the club. I joined as a 15-year-old. One of the best decisions of my life to join the great Bill Nicholson, who was managing Tottenham Hotspur at the time. The fact that they won the FA Cup final against Chelsea helped my decision somewhat. And I was lucky enough to avoid injury but get in the team very early as a 17-year-old and managed to play over 850 games. So I'm talking from a ex-player's point of view, Howard from a lucky supporter that was supporting from the double days, and Tom being the newer supporter, but as serious as myself and Howard are with regard to our desires to see the improvement at our great club. So, yeah, because it's been nearly 10 months, Howard, could you tell us what's been happening in your life since we last heard from you?
Well, top of the list really has to be, we celebrated our 50th wedding anniversary. I think there should be a law against it.
Like it. Where did you celebrate it?
We celebrated partly going on a cruise in the Baltic States, which was great. Met some interesting people. We spent a few days in Spain with the kids, which was lovely. And traveling around, moving around the rest of the time.
Fantastic. Well done, Howard. And you, Tom, what's been happening in your life?
So I guess a few months ago, we had the pleasure of welcoming yourself, Steve, and a number of the other 84 players to my little town, Whitchurch, for a reunion of the 1984 UEFA Cup winning night, which was a really great evening. Great to have you all in our little sports club. And yeah, other than that, 10-year wedding anniversary. So catching Howard up pretty rapidly, obviously, and yeah, getting a new kitchen installed as well, which is utter carnage. Wouldn't recommend it to anyone. But yeah, that's been the story of my last few months.
Well done. So I have had a new hip, my second one, which was desperately needed. All went well, whereas I'd stayed in for 5 nights, I think, for the first one. Now the operation is done by robot, and I was just in for 1 night and made a very quick recovery, thankfully. Traveled to Portugal, Northern Norway, Guernsey and Jersey with various links to the Tottenham past, again celebrating the 1984 UEFA Cup win with the chaps who played golf in Jersey. I don't play golf. But in Guernsey, I had the pleasure and the privilege of being with Keith Birkinshaw and his wife, with Kim, my wife. We had a great 5 days there. Again, basically with the 1984 victory being spoken about. Not really doing too much on the talk situation, but that's all ready to start again in September. So the details I'll give at the end of this podcast. So the first thing I want to come on to, Howard, with you first, if you don't mind, is we'd like our players to be role models. And, you know, we're not supporting the club because of winning the league every year or actually getting a trophy every year. That, of course, doesn't happen. There's very few trophies to go around. But I'd just like to know, when we're so deep into Tottenham Hotspur and the history and the tradition, etc., I would just like you to tell me what you thought of the Bissouma situation and this laughing gas, which, to be fair, I don't understand. So, but I'd still like to ask you the question, Howard, although you're the same age as me, so perhaps you don't know too much about it either.
Don't know too much, no, but clearly it was stupid. That's really what it comes down to. The guy was stupid. The group of people with a lot of money and not enough time. And I must congratulate Spurs management, because they shut it down very quickly. One match suspension, they'll be forgotten about, and we can all get on with our lives.
Good, Howard. Thank you. What about you, Tom? Being a newer version of an opinion, how did you see it?
Yeah, same. It was. I think what was most disappointing about it was that he had such a great start last season, and then kind of faded a bit after the Luton sending off, and then it seems like over the summer he's been really kind of talking well, and clearly has lofty ambitions to become to become a captain, and then within a week of the season starting, he's it's not just the fact he did it, it's the fact he put it on his social media channels for everyone to see as well, and it just seems like a really clueless thing to do when you know that previous players have made the front page of papers for doing exactly that. Just really disappointing. I'm sure Ange was absolutely furious, and again, as Howard said, it was great that the club handled it swiftly with a one match ban. No kind of further comment really. Just he's been punished for it. Very quick, decisive action. And then obviously after, we'll come on to Leicester later, I'm sure, but after the Bentancur injury, I'm sure he'll be needed at the weekend.
Back in the fold. Yeah, the good thing about doing these podcasts is you can look back and see what I said about various players and situations. And nobody was more excited with the signing of this lad. So I was disappointed with how he played under Conte. I think he became too negative, just passed the ball back to where it had come from, and wasn't progressive in his play whatsoever. But then, even more worryingly, so a form thing is bad enough, but it's you can improve that. But I was starting to look at him and thinking that he was more worried about how he looked than how he played. Now, whether that leads him into doing such stupid things that you both mentioned, I don't know. But yeah, he's got a little bit of making up to do, of course, with Ange, of course, with the team and the club and the supporters. But the fact that I went a little bit overboard on him when we signed him, I think he's got a little bit to make up to me. I doubt if he even knows my name, by the way, but I'm a bit hurt by his actions as such. So, of course, during the summer, the football didn't come home. I'm not sure the summer even come home, unless it was when I was touring abroad. But it didn't feel like a summer to me. But yeah, any thoughts on the Euros, please? The pair of you, Howard, to start?
Yeah, well, as I said, we were on this cruise for the last week of the Euros, which ran into the cruise timetable. And although they told me they would find a way for me to watch it, nobody in the ship could organise it. And the only thing I could see at all was through Viv being on one computer in our cabin, and Kim, Steve's wife, being at home in her place. We managed to get through the other. The trouble was, even then, it only buffered. It was the worst time for things in a match, and it's the final of the Euro. What could we do?
It teased you a bit, didn't it? You could hear the sound, but you couldn't see the picture properly.
Yeah.
So whether you missed a lot, Howard, it depends to be, we've all got our own opinions on that. Tom, what about yourself?
Yeah, I'm never really the right person to ask about international football these days. I find it hard to get as worked up for England as I do for Spurs. Obviously enjoyed it from a kind of social perspective, enjoyed the kids getting into it. We were down the sports club for most of the group games and a couple of the early ones. But talking about buffering, talking about struggling to get hold of signal, I think it's just such a weird era to watch football in these days, because everyone's watching it at a different split second due to if you're not at the game, you're watching it on streams or potential buffering. And certainly at the sports club we were at, there was like a big screen in the where we did the 84 reunion night, the large
Yeah.
big room, big screen, which was essentially a projector with a laptop playing the iPlayer version of the game onto, whereas in the club itself, in the bar, they had TVs on normal actual live and it just made for a pretty naff experience, really, like hearing cheering before you'd actually seen it on the big screen, and in the end everyone just kind of crowded into the bar and watched it on this tiny little screen there, because it was just you have that feeling as well, where if you're watching it knowing there's a delay, you're expecting buzzes on your phone, you're expecting it's almost like if England are on the attack and you haven't had a buzz, then you're just like, oh, we're not going to score.
We're not going to score. That's it.
Or if you do get a buzz, you're scared to look at it in case it's going to kind of because football is all about the moment of the ball hitting the net, isn't it? And if anything around that is taken away, the pure kind of joy of that split second of it happening, you just need to turn your phone off these days, I think, if you're not at the game.
I think you're right about the England situation. We probably watch so much football on television these days, and we're so committed to our own club, for instance. So there's always a club interest, isn't there? So Harry Kane, albeit he's left us, I'm sure we all had an opinion of how Harry was doing. In the end, I think we were asking, did he deserve to be picked? From my point of view, great to see Ollie Watkins eventually come on and score the important goal that gets us to the final. And of course, Exeter City were a big part in developing him. And it's something I'm particularly interested in, how young players develop. And it's about making the right decisions of, I spoke earlier about my great decision of joining Bill Nicholson. Well, Ollie Watkins made a very good decision to sign for Exeter City. And the other clubs weren't banging his door down by any means. So, but he progressed through the teams, and a very serious football player, a very nice young man. And we sold him to Brentford and then on to Aston Villa. Again, from a Tottenham perspective, because you're always looking at it through those eyes, they could have taken Ollie Watkins for about 2 million before he joined Brentford. And I think it was Poch that went against the decision. David Pleat was very, very seriously on the phone to me every day for a couple of weeks about signing Ollie, and did I think he was good enough? Well, of course I was going to say yes, because it was 2 million. But delighted how he made progress during that tournament. And the other thing I'm really pleased about, and there's all sorts of things about the manager, should he have gone, etc. He was a very safe choice, and I don't think you can argue with the results that he achieved in his term as England manager. So well done to him, Gareth Southgate. But also, Tom, I don't know if you would have seen some of this. Howard certainly didn't. But when Ange was involved on the panel, and not only Ange, but the Brentford manager as well, their depth of knowledge was so much greater than the rest of the pundits that we've got so used to listening to and taking their opinion. And which says to me that be a manager, you have to be, for instance, when they were speaking about would you select Harry Kane, the Brentford manager said, this is your top goal scorer. This is Harry Kane. This is the man who can win the trophy for you. And how can you possibly talk about not selecting him? And so I thought, so there was a realism about those two gentlemen, their comments on that panel, whereas sometimes a lot of the other comments are sort of knee-jerk situations. I'm sure they've got governors behind the scenes that are pushing them into a certain direction as per putting pressure on the manager or whatever. So So yeah, disappointment in the end, but pleased for Ollie, and very pleased for how Ange came across, because I think the majority of us are on Ange, on his side. We want him to do well. We believe that he's got the right ethics about how he wants to play the game. And I think that was proven to us even more so by being on that panel. And sometimes I think maybe you're wiser to stay away from those things. I certainly have done over the course of my career, having finished playing. But I think it did Ange some good with the PR situation. So, Howard, your hopes for the season as an old, dyed-in-the-wool supporter?
Yeah.
What you're hoping for?
What I'm hoping for, I think, the last 30 years we were going, before we got to the 40th year, my closest friend who also came to football with Viv and I, we would choose the team. We'd work out who they'd buy and who'd buy and sell. I'm sure all supporters do. So you end up with a team, and ultimately, when we looked at the team that we created, we were going to win the title. Never any question about it. However, once we started, the first game against Leicester has left me very conflicted, because we've done the same thing that we've done year after year after year, which is taking the lead. And I'm a real Spurs supporter, so I know as soon as we score, whilst I'm up and celebrating, the reality is I'm scared stiff we're going to concede a goal.
Yeah. Howard, let's come on to Leicester City next. But Tom, realistically, your hopes for this season?
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, after the Conte and Mourinho seasons, it's just last season, despite some results not going our way, I just enjoyed going, and excuse my daughter.
No problem. Absolutely no problem.
Yeah, it's just last season it was an enjoyable season in terms of being able to go and actually enjoy the football, as well as seeing friends and having a day out of the football, you know. So I think this year I'd just like to see some progression from that, see a bit more consistency in the way we perform, hopefully some better defending. I think there's definitely some hairy moments with the kind of highlight and the way we play with the fullbacks. So I think it would, we say it every year, but just want to win a pot. Doesn't really matter which one, but it would just be lovely to actually have a decent cup run or two, because it really hasn't felt like we've really kind of bothered either of the cups in the last couple of years, and see the youngsters get some good game time in Europe probably, and
I think you've got a spider on your shoulder.
Yeah, it's quite an annoying one. And
we've been potless too long.
We have, but yeah, and you know, if we can basically improve our league position, which would mean finishing in the top four, then then I'd see that as a good season. And then obviously if we do that, then the onus is on the season after to probably push for the top two. But yeah, this season for me a good one is good cup runs, good youngsters, good blooding of youngsters, and you know, a more consistent league season without the kind of periods of really poor form that we had last year once or twice.
Yeah. So bring it down to the crux. I would like us to lose the Spursy tag.
Yep.
I still think that there's too many photographers at the training ground taking too many Spursy pictures. I really don't want to see players kissing and cuddling each other. Okay, not kissing, but when you think back to, you know, the first captain of my club, Tottenham Hotspur, my club, your club, our club, was Dave Mackay. And if you think he cuddled anyone, he'd rather give you a right-hander than do that. So of course there was no cameras around. There was no Facebook to pander to. There was no PR necessity. The PR was winning games and winning trophies. So I just want to see us more serious. That's why I'm very anti this Basuma situation, which we've already spoken about. Anything that makes us look Spursy, then I want us to rid ourselves of. And if it's young players who are making mistakes out of naivety, I'm not going to be happy with that, but I'm going to be aware that that's what happens when you play young players. They have to learn somewhere. And I'm saying that as a 17-year-old who got in the team and actually learned while I was on the stage, the big stage. So you're going to be helped by more experienced players, by proper players, by great leaders, mentors, in Bill Nicholson, Eddie Bailey, Keith Birkinshaw, even Terry Neal, for instance. So, but all that leads to improvement and eventually leads to some purple patch years that, Spurs supporters always harp back to. So let's go on to the Leicester City game. You started there, Howard, a bit. You liked the first half of football, as I think we all did. What do you think after that?
After that, it only occurred to me that if I was playing for Spurs, then I went in at half time. I know I've got 15 minutes and they will be coming for us because they have to.
Yeah.
And once that gives us the opportunity, if we can stop them doing that, it gives us the opportunity to change what we're doing, put the pressure back on them. And I mean, it should be straightforward.
So we obviously should have been goals up with the first half performance, Tom. We were very exciting for a lot of those 45 minutes. Any comment from you?
Yeah, I mean, I think we texted at half time saying that was just a great, encouraging, slick first half performance. And I think we looked like we were performing well as a team. I think the midfield was moving into the movements into the opposition area were really good. It was just the final ball, I guess, that could have been improved on quite a number of occasions, but we still created plenty of chances. Better finishing, we should have been 2-3-0 up at half time. And then, as you say, the second half, I mean, we started the second half well as well. Another two great chances for Solanke and Bentancur, but as soon as they scored the goal, we just crumbled, and we're lucky not to lose it in the end, which seemed unthinkable. During the first half, and I think, I think frequently, last season we drew first game of the season under Poch. I remember, bad starts, drawing to Everton, losing to Man United, not winning for 3 games at the beginning of that the title challenge season against with Leicester in 2016. So I think the first game of the season is always a tough one to read too much into. But I do think I saw enough in the first half in terms of our cohesiveness and attacking intent to suggest that we're going to be good to watch again this season at least. We just need to stand up and be counted more when things go against us, like that Vardy goal, and the fact that the fans then obviously woke up and got behind their team. We need to be stronger in those situations.
Definitely a plus with Maddison in that first half.
Yeah, he was excellent, wasn't he?
Yep.
Wow, that's the Maddison that we saw at certain points last season. Fantastic.
What do we think about who says what? Who's in charge at half time?
Obviously, the manager is in charge, Howard, and that's obvious. The manager sets the tone of the before the game, be it in the training days, etc. He sets the tone in his pre-match talk, and he sets the tone at half time. And you're right. Of course, they're going to come for us. They've got to. They've got a number of, as much as we are desperate for our success, Leicester people want Leicester to be successful. So they're not going to just sit back and take what happened in the first half, are they? They've got to up their game. Even if they get beat, they've got to up their game to give some hope to the supporters. So I would know from a dressing room situation that there has to come an opinion from the pitch. And of course, the manager's opinion is the most important one. But then as captain, you fill in the bits. You really do fill in the bits, because the manager's not going to cover everything. So you've got extra time now than the 10 minutes that we had. So there's more time to fill, and even if it's giving warnings to players or the back line about dropping too deep or etc., those messages have to come. And normally when it's someone from the pitch, i.e. the captain, and in my era, the last 10, 12 years, it was me, then you really do have to home in on that. And you're not suggesting that you've got a better opinion than the manager, but in fact, you can speak a bit stronger to players because you're out there having to do it as well. And sometimes it's not easy because you're not having the best game, but there's certain things need saying. And I'm sort of posing the question, which I think I did looking back at various podcasts, about Son being the captain type. So the problem with what I'm saying, I'm seeing it from my perspective and led by my era, the experience from my era. Now, I've never stepped one foot in the dressing room in modern times, particularly at Tottenham. And every manager wants something different from their captain. So Son is a great PR choice. He's obviously a very, very nice man. I can't be saying what we were sort of suggesting about Bissouma and then hold it against Son because he's a good man. But I wonder if Son can have the man talk that's needed at times. And I hope he can. If he hasn't got that, then I believe that somebody else should be the match captain, and he could be the club captain. And I suggested the same about Lloris, because positionally, and hard to captain a team from the goalkeeping position. But so I'm holding my opinion on Son as a captain, on Solanke, although I like the signs, what was happening. I'm holding my opinion for sure on young players that have joined us, and I'm sure that they've all got very good reputations. I know a bit more about the Swedish lad because of my Swedish contacts, but I'm still going to give all of them 6, 8, 10 games before I pass the sort of ultimate opinion for me on their progress, hopefully progress with us. So yeah, captaincy is a big thing for me. Of course it is, and so I'm looking closely at that one for now. So thank you, chaps. I mean, we're going to have a lot to talk about in the future, especially these young players. I read a lot of stuff on social media, and I'm starting to get a bit bored of it. And I'm particularly bored about these young players being called kids. No, they're not kids. If they're anywhere near our first team, they're not kids. Kids would be, under 10s, probably up to about under 15s. I think that's kids. The rest are young players, and they're young players on a career path, learning their game. If they can't learn it for themselves, someone's got to learn it for them as per what their game should consist of. So it's all going to be interesting. I see the departures, and lots of departures, I know, but I'm particularly interested in homegrown players. So Oliver Skip, I'd like to thank him for his service to the club from a very, very young age. I think he's a good professional player. I think the likes of Skippy and the other lad who signed for Leicester. I think
Winks.
they're Winks. I think they're the type that crowds might pick on when the team's not playing up to its billing and getting the results that we wish that we'd got. I think they're hard workers, diligent, good professionals, put their foot in, do their job. And I think that they are, and it happened during my era as well, people like John Pratt, etc., and me for a little while. But yeah, and I think a trusted physio left the club as well. Unfortunately, I don't know his name.
Jeff Scott.
Jeff Scott. So well done, Jeff. Thank you for your service. And it's easy for people to say, "Oh well, our injuries were taking too long to get back." What a nonsense! What an absolute nonsense! But yeah. So thank you, chaps. Thank you for your opinions. Welcome back. You look fit.
We
look
are
fit. You look happy. You look rested. And of course, we're going now into the Saturday game, 3:00 kickoff against Everton. I said I'd mention about a couple of talks that I've got in September. On the 9th, which is a Monday, I'm with Ozzy, which is particularly funny, in Whitstable, the Rose in Bloom pub, as I said, with Ozzy Ardiles, on the 12th of September on my own in Bushey, which I think is Hertfordshire. And if you need any details of those two events, they'll probably be on social media, but also if you email me on steveperrymanpublic@gmail.com, then I'll certainly send you back details. So thank you for listening. Really good to be back. And come on, you Spurs. Thanks, chaps.
Thanks a lot. Bye.